Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Talk Gaming, the only internet talk show which makes you ooze with excitement every time you see a new upload. I am your host, Lukey Poo, and I was recently speaking with a friend of mine, very close friend, and we were talking about video games in general, and he brought up the question, what actually is an RPG? I mean, we hear the term get thrown out all over the place. We hear Bloodborne get called an RPG. We hear Fallout 4 called one, Skyrim, New Vegas, The Witcher 3. All these games have been called RPGs, but what actually is an RPG? Are they RPGs in its pure form, or are they just sort of melded, changed, altered definitions, and they take pieces of it, but they aren't truly RPGs? Well, I sat down and I thought about it, and I wrote some stuff out. I've got two big note cards, which I'm going to go off of. So this is purely my opinion, my conclusion based on what I think an RPG is. Of course, I could just go with the dictionary definition, but that would make a boring video, and most people wouldn't even consider that to be a flushed out definition anyway. So I, as a gamer, am going to offer my point of view, my opinion on the definition. You can take it or leave it, but please do leave your opinion, your thought, and your definition down in the comments below. I read them all, so it's definitely worth a shot. You might even get featured in a video if you're smart enough, so no reason not to. But of course, the dictionary definition of an RPG would just be a role-playing game. It's just a game where you are role-playing as somebody or something. That doesn't get us very far, though, because many games could potentially fit under that based on your definition of role-playing. So, the typical definitions that I've heard, and I asked this friend I was talking to, I asked him his definition. I went on Reddit and asked people what they thought the definition was, and even just on Reddit, the diversity of what people considered to be an RPG was shocking. And so I took what seemed to be the most popular and the most common, and I'm going to recite them for you now and offer my thoughts on it, and we'll go from there. So the first and probably most typical one was that an RPG is a game in which the player enters the game world and plays from the perspective of the character, of the player character. Now, while I think that's true, I don't think that it's completely true. I think it's missing a lot. And the reason I think it's missing a lot is because by that definition, basically any first-person shooter or any game almost that's not a simulator could count as a role-playing game. Certainly even like Sid Meier's Civ 6 could count as an RPG because you're in a world and you're controlling it from the point of view of this leader of an empire or whatever, and you're trying to control it. So while I think that that's fair and that's true, I don't think that contains everything, just because it's too broad. It's not specific enough. So moving on, like the next definition I heard most often was probably just when people would say that an RPG is a game in which you design your character and you get to customize your character's skills and attributes, and you get to do all that. And again, I think that's true, but I think it's missing some elements. I think there's more to it than just customizing your attributes and skill points and assigning skill points as you upgrade. Because again, by that definition, something like Battlefield 1, where you're leveling up, you could say that that could be an RPG because you're playing from the point of view of a player, but then you're also getting skill points and all that. So I think that that's true, but I think it's missing some stuff as well. And the last one that I heard most often was just people that say that it's a game in which you have a branching story and you are forced with moral choices. And I think that this is also definitely correct, and in my opinion is the biggest element of it. But again, it's missing the stuff from the other two, I guess. There's two others. So what I think the true definition is emerging in a combination of all three of those. I think they all have elements to them which are correct. And so my definition, kind of merging all these together, get ready for a long-winded sentence with poor punctuation. My definition would be an RPG is a game in which there is a sprawling living world that you can really get to know, love, live in. It feels alive. And a game in which you become the character, play the game from their perspective, not just point of view, not just first person view, but you actually are playing the game from the perspective of that character. You're making choices, doing things based on what that character would be thinking in that world. It's also a game in which you make character-defining choices, which would include those leveling up things, assigning perks, assigning skill points, whatever it is, choosing whether or not you want to be like a thief or be really nimble and slow-moving or maybe sneaky, or if you want to be just a tank and go in there with a club beating people over the head. That's what I talk about when I say character defining choices must be made. And you also must be able to go through that aforementioned living, sprawling world, being forced to make gray, moral, difficult decisions that affect that world. And what does that mean? Well, basically, that just means that as you go through the world, you're forced to make choices which are going to define the outcome of the universe that you're in, of the world that you're in. So an example would be, say, something like Skyrim, where you have the choice between fighting for the Empire, or you can work with the rebels, the Stormcloaks. Or you can, for instance, in Fallout New Vegas, you can fight with Caesar's Legion, or you can go and fight with Mr. House, or you can go and help the kings out, or you can do, some stuff for the NCR. You can do all these different things that will affect the outcome of the world, of the universe. That is what makes a living, breathing world. When you have moral, difficult choices to make, and they actually have an impact. So the main reason I say this, and the main reason I included that and earlier said that was the most important element of my definition, is because a linear game, a linear story, I don't think can be included as an actual RPG, because I don't think that if you're being forced to play a certain way that you can honestly call that role playing. I think you have to actually be able to make choices which are good and bad, which are moral and immoral, which are good for this group, bad for this group. And that's why I was so frustrated, and hopefully you can understand my frustration with, say, Fallout 4, because I like the role-playing element of being able to make good choices and bad choices, being able to play the supervillain. But with Fallout 4, I'm not even allowed to kill probably half the characters in the game, because I know it sounds so weird that I'm complaining I can't kill enough people. But for instance, like Fallout New Vegas, one of my favorite games of all time. And you can just, on PC, get on the console, tilde, kill all, enter, and every living thing on the map drops dead. You can still go move through the world, you can still loot, and you can still do some stuff. It'll be boring because everyone's dead, but you can at least do it, right? And of course, console commands, it's a little not allowed, but still, you can go, and if I wanted to, I could grab a gun, go and shoot every single person on the map. It might be hard because they've got bodyguards, or maybe they're really tough, but I'd be able to do it. It's allowed in the world. Just like in this world, you're allowed to do some messed up stuff. Doesn't mean you should, no, but you're still able to do it. And that's what frustrated me with Fallout 4, is that they just outright said, no, you can't kill Preston Garvey because, that'll mess up the whole story and we won't be able to do anything if he's dead. It'll just end. It's like, well, yes, that's the point, is that the world has to be alive. You have to be able to make good choices and bad choices. I could talk about this for a while. I'm gonna stop. Just understand. Hopefully this helps you understand my frustration with Fallout 4. And of course, there's other problems with, like, The Witcher 3, where it does have limitations on what you're able to do. That's understandable because they have it's branching, but it's also a more linear story that's going, and it's going to one destination. All of that to say that this is my definition of an RPG. I could go through and grade all these games, whether or not I consider them true, honest to goodness RPGs. If you're interested in that, ask me down below in the comments section. I'll read it and I'll make a video discussing it. If not, no harm, no foul. I'm perfectly okay with that. But again, let me know what you think your definition is down in the comment section below. If you agree with me, disagree with me, I just want to hear your opinion. But with that said, guys, thank you for watching. I love each and every single one of you more than you could possibly know. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Peace out.
We're no strangers to love. You know the rules, and so